Today we have an extra special guest, and I know you're all hoping he's funny, but no more than me because it's my dad. So please welcome Kevin Archer.
Thank you very much. A man walks into a bar in Edinburgh and he says, "Please, could I have a pint and a packet of crisps?" Because he likes to fit in with the locals. And the barman says, "You want a pint and a packet? That's fine. Thank you very much, I appreciate it." And he gives him the pint and the packet of crisps. And he says, "Ah, thank you very much, that's great." And he takes a drink. And the barman says, "Do you mind if I ask you, why are you moving your head like that?" He said, "Oh, that's no problem." He said, that's just the way I tell the time." "That's the way you tell that's the way I tell the time." He said, "Well, let me just give you a little test. What time is it now?" She said, "It's 12:15. 12:15. He said, "Well, I'm afraid to tell you, it's actually 12:30. He said, "Oh, I must be slow." Thank you, Edinburgh. I've been Kevin Archer. Good night. Actually, that's not the case. I'm 54 years of age, and I know I don't look it, and this is my debut stand-up, all right? It's never too late to start, all right? Now, don't you worry, because you're in the company of an old person now, and they don't always know what they're doing, and it can make people feel insecure. But I want to tell you, though I've not done stand-up before, and I've certainly never been at the Fringe before, just here supporting my son, I think, why not take advantage of the opportunity? You see, I think that's the reason why I'm a pretty late starter in those things. But that's not a bad thing. Because I think when you do something for the first time and you're older, you appreciate it far, far more. And I've waited 54 years for this afternoon. Believe it or not, this is not my day job. This is not my day job. I'm a teacher. Anybody here involved in teaching?
Yeah.
Hey, don't shout out, just put your hand up, okay? You should know. She shouted out, we should know better. And you are as well, yes, I know that very much. Okay, so listen, I just want to tell you something else that happened for the first time here in Edinburgh. And I'm not proud of it, I'm not pleased about it, but it was for the first time. And I have to just reach over and get hold of this. Tuesday afternoon I was here, this is a free show. It's great to have a free show, isn't it? Actually, it's a free show to come in, but you never know what it's going to cost you when you go out. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what it cost me. Okay, I was parked legitimately Roxburgh Terrace or Street or somewhere, and you can see my wife here to your right. And I went off to get the car, and I came and parked it for a few minutes outside on Nidri Street or whatever this was. A street name that will be forever etched in my memory. And there, for the first time in my 54 years, I received a parking ticket. So I think, you know, as the guy went, I sort of said, "Welcome to Bonnie, Scotland." I was not impressed with getting it was just a few minutes in to get my wife up, down the stairs, and I came out and there he was, taking a photograph. Okay, there he was, writing it down. And we had a little discussion, shall we say. Now there are three things about him that made him an interesting psychological profile for somebody who might irritate people. Number one, he was small. Number two, he was in uniform. And number three, he was Scottish. Now, I've not got a problem with authority. In fact, I think authority is really important. Law and order, I think it's one of those number one things. But I don't like it when it picks on me. And I'm sure I'm not alone in that fact. And the fact that he was small, okay, you know, small men tend to want to assert themselves. He actually was arguing with me. I think he was getting a bit embarrassed when my wife came out and he saw the situation. But he wasn't going to back down. And at one point, just to make a finer point, I rested my hand on his forearm. And this is a true story, but someone was there, "You touch me again, and it'll be assault." Okay, thank you very much for your very warm welcome. So, putting a uniform on, so you look like, if you're old enough, you look like a sort of a Barry McGuigan, who was a famous boxer, very small, and he had that steely determination in his eye. And I think probably at home he's a very nice guy, but put a uniform on him, and suddenly he's transformed. But the Scottish thing's interesting. Now, I'm not, obviously, it's a very dangerous thing to suggest anything about Scottish people when you're actually in Edinburgh at the Fringe. But there are a couple of things about this. Number one, I think there is something that Scottish people have in terms of moral rectitude. I think there's a strong Calvinistic streak that comes from their upbringing. In fact, I drove out yesterday, out towards the seaside along the Firth of Forth, and drove through Musselburgh. Anybody from Musselburgh here? Because there's a sign that says, "Welcome to Musselburgh." All right? And then underneath it, it says, "An honest tune." An honest tune. But I don't know whether that's saying things about the residents of Musselburgh, or whether it's trying to suggest things about sort of Edinburgh, I don't know. Dishonest town in Edinburgh. Perhaps that's what it is. But there is something that is fighting for right, and while I respect that, it doesn't really help. But the other thing about it was obviously he was Scottish and I was English, and there was a whole sort of Braveheart haze came. You come from England and you parked in my little street and you are not going to get away with it. And obviously I didn't, and I did try. There was another guy across the road from Kirkcuddy. I think that's how you say it, isn't it? Is that where Gordon Brown is? So at least two good people, well, one good person has come out of Kirkcuddy anyway. And he actually stood by me and he said he would bear witness, and that was really great. But I was determined. I'm going to forgive the guy. I've already forgiven him from my heart. But I wanted to get my revenge. You know, they say revenge is best served cold. I've got a new hero this week. If you're like me and on holiday, you're not really keeping up with the news, but I am, in our hotel. And a new hero, Stephen Slater. And I need to grab my iPhone in a minute so I can just read this out for you. But you might not have heard of him, a flight attendant in America. Right, okay, well don't spoil it, but I'll just tell you. And if you really want to get your revenge, and you want to go out with a bang, even perhaps at the cost of your own liberty, in the United States, he might get 5 years for doing this, then this is the sort of thing that you want to practice. In fact, the American legal system, and I'm not knocking Americans, I have an American grandson and daughter-in-law, but I think there's something quite strange about a country that I heard on the news today, after, what, about 8-9 years, has finally sentenced Osama bin Laden's cook. They arrested Osama bin Laden's cook. I don't know whether he's been in Guantanamo Bay or whatever, but they've actually finally sentenced him. You know, terrorist chef. That's astonishing. He's banged up for life, and McDonald's gets away with murder. It is just absolutely, an imbalance of the system. But this guy was brilliant. If I could just, these are great, these iPhones. I actually found a lovely restaurant to be able to eat in last night. But I tell you the other thing about getting old and 54 is that you can't read a blessed thing. Which is great for being a teacher, because of course the great thing about having I've got half moon ones at home is being able to go like that and look at the kids over the top. But this is worth reading out. This US flight attendant, Stephen Slater, 39, reportedly became furious with a passenger as the plane arrived at JFK International Airport after a row on takeoff. He was arrested and charged with criminal mischief, trespassing and reckless endangerment. It's really good. He lands in New York. Mr. Slater's lawyer told journalists his client had been drawn into a fight between two female passengers over space in the overhead bins as the flight was awaiting takeoff in Pittsburgh. Somehow Mr. Slater was hit in the head. I move on. After the flight landed in New York, the woman attempted to retrieve her bag before the plane came to a complete stop, the lawyer said, and swore at Mr. Slater. Mr. Slater then used the loudspeaker to tell the passenger off before allegedly grabbing some beer from the kitchen and activating the emergency slide. Just what a way to go, I grabbed the beer and away down the slide. So that really inspired me. So as I finish, I've finally decided how I'm going to take my revenge. Okay, so I can press another button. It might come out here. Let's just see if I can get hold of this. iPhone. There's an app for this, and there's an app for that. And if you want revenge, no, but I'm afraid you're not going to come out. Yeah, I know, but it's just, and here is it.
I'm in uniform, and I know I'm a Scotsman, and I know I'm small, but I don't ever be this small.
I know, but I mean, you've got to promise not to do it again. Oh, of course, we've got to have mercy on us. Maybe later I'll decide to do that. Just before I finish, thank you for indulgence. I'd love my wife to be able to say that she once in her life did stand up at Edinburgh. So in the middle of the night, I woke up and we wrote a joke, like you do when you're on holiday. And I would just like to leave you with this joke, okay? If I can just bring the microphone over here. Are you ready for this? Okay. What do you call a Yorkshire teddy bear wearing a wig? I don't know. What do you call a Yorkshire teddy bear wearing a wig? Tedinborrowed Fringe. Tedinborrowed Fringe. Tedinborowed Fringe, it's been lovely to be with you. We've been Kevin and Judy Arthur. Thank you very much. Can you just stand? Can you just stand? Keep clapping. I'd love to say I got a standing ovation for the first and last time that I did it. Thank you.